So these are notes for lesson 7-5, part 2, the half angle identities. We did the double angles on Friday, so today we are doing the half angles the rest of the lesson. We're going to be on page 482 and start with problem number 8. The half angle identities are located on your reference sheet to the right of the double angle identities. So they're right smack dab in the middle of the page on the right-hand side. For problem number 8, it tells us the cosine of theta is 3/5, and it also says that it's in the first quadrant, because the first quadrant is where theta is between 0 and pi over 2. So we're looking for the sine of theta over 2, and just to keep in the habit, let's draw the right triangle in the first quadrant. Since the cosine is 3/5, that tells us that x is 3 and the radius is 5. So this is a 3, 4, 5 triangle. The sine of theta over 2 has the identity of plus or minus the square root of 1 minus the cosine of theta over 2. Notice that plus or minus is a choice. So if you look at where theta is, it's in the first quadrant. When you cut that in half, it will still be in the first quadrant. When you're in the first quadrant, sine is positive. So our answer is going to be the positive square root of 1 minus whatever the cosine is. In this case, it is 3/5, all divided by 2. 1 minus 3/5 is 2/5. Divided by 2 is 1/5. So this is the square root of 1/5, which is the square root of 1 over the square root of 5. We don't like having square roots in the denominator, which gives us root 5 over 5. For part D, the cosine of theta over 2, again, it starts out as plus or minus the square root of 1 plus the cosine of theta over 2. Again, it's a choice. We're still in the first quadrant. Cosine is positive in the first quadrant, so it will be the positive answer. 1 plus 3/5, because that's the cosine, divided by 2. 1 plus 3/5 is 8/5, divided by 2 is 4/5. So we're looking for the square root of 4/5, which is 2 over root 5, otherwise known as 2 root 5 over 5. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. So let's try the secant of theta equals 2. Problem number 16. It tells us that the cosecant is negative. The secant is a positive 2. So we're looking for the place where x is positive but y is negative, and that happens in the fourth quadrant. So let's draw our triangle. So secant is r over x. So in this case, r over x is 2 over 1. So the radius is 2, x is 1, which tells us that y is negative square root 3. Again, we're just doing parts C and D. For part C, we are looking for the sine of theta over 2. Again, it's a choice, positive or negative. If you look at where we're located, it's in the fourth quadrant. If you cut that in half, we will still be in the fourth quadrant. So the answer will be negative square root of 1 minus whatever the cosine is. In this case, the cosine is 1/2 divided by 2. 1 minus a half is a half, divided by 2 is a quarter. So this is the opposite of the square root of 1/4, which is negative 1/2. Let's look for the cosine of theta over 2. So again, you have to make a choice, positive or negative. In the fourth quadrant, cut in half, you're still in the fourth quadrant. Cosine will be positive. So the answer is going to be the positive square root of 1 plus that half, because that's the cosine, over 2. 1 plus a half is 3/2, divided by 2 is 3/4. So this is the square root of 3/4, which becomes the square root of 3 over 2. Let's go on to problem number 34. H of theta over 2. The book tells you that H is tangent. So this is the same as the tangent of theta over 2. If you look at the book again, theta is the graph on the left. The graph on the right is alpha. So we are working on the angle that's in the second quadrant. So let's redraw it just so we have it handy. So this triangle is y is 2. The radius is the square root of 5. Therefore, the other side is negative 1. This angle, if you look at it, is in the second quadrant. When you cut it in half, notice that the angle starts at 0 and goes all the way into the second quadrant. So when you cut it in half, you are actually going to end up in the first quadrant. So this will be a positive answer. So we need the positive square root of 1 minus the cosine of theta over 1 plus the cosine of theta. Again, it was a choice, positive or negative, and we are going to go with the positive answer. So looking at this problem, 1 minus the cosine will be 1 minus a negative 1 over root 5 over 1 plus a negative 1 over root 5. I think that we should simplify our fractions first. So this becomes the square root of root 5 plus 1 over root 5 divided by root 5 minus 1 over root 5. The root 5's cancel. And we get to fix our fraction some more. So now we have the square root of root 5 plus 1 over root 5 minus 1. You have to rationalize the denominator by multiplying by root 5 plus 1. There's a nice little trick that's going to occur here, because root 5 plus 1 times root 5 plus 1 is root 5 plus 1 squared. And the denominator becomes 5 minus 1, which is 4. The square root of root 5 squared is root 5 plus 1. Square root of 4 is 2. So now you have an answer. Let's move on to problem number 70. So this is set up as the sine of 2 theta. Remember, the inverse sine of root 3 over 2 is just an angle. So we get to use the double angle theorem for sine. So this is going to equal 2 times the sine of theta cosine of theta, which gives us 2 times, if the inverse sine of our angle goes with root 3 over 2, then the sine of that angle is root 3 over 2. And if you look on your unit circle, whenever y is root 3 over 2, x is a half. So this simplifies into root 3 over 2. Final problem, number 78. Again, it's set up so that you can use one of the formulas. And it's also set up nicely for us. Notice it's cosine squared of 1/2 theta. The theta, again, matches up with the inverse sine, 3/5. Since it's squared, we can get rid of the square root in the half angle formula. And we do not have to worry about the plus and minus stuff. So cosine squared is going to equal 1 plus the cosine of angle over 2. So you do need a triangle. The inverse sine of a positive is in the first quadrant. It's going to be y over r, which tells us that x is 4. So the cosine is 4 over 5. So to find our answer, we take 1 plus 4/5 and divide it by 2. 1 plus 4/5 is 9/5. Half of 9/5 is 9/10. And that's it. Homework, page 482, problem 9, parts C and D, because you already did parts A and B the night before. Problem 15, 37, and 75.